With the release of Edge of Fate, a big change to all of our Guardians' power levels have happened, and essentially really solid builds that were great before this are now fallen by the wayside, especially in that high tier mythic content. Today, I have revamped a classic Titan build that is able to get you through that mythic 300 plus level content with ease, and also get you through the new raid Desert Perpetual. Let's dive on into this new setup that is essentially going to get you through everything that you need to do in Destiny 2. Starting off, we're going to talk about the exotic, and that is an insurmountable skull fort. Its armor perk reads Transfusion Matrix. Final blows with arc melees trigger health regeneration and fully restore a melee charge. Melee hits grant arc melee energy. So this is going to be great to constantly proc that thunderclap, being able to essentially completely nuke entire groups of enemies with one punch and then immediately get that one punch back. And what's also great about this is the fact that it's instantly going to start healing you. So again, in that high tier content, even if you get down to a sliver of health, if you're able to get that melee kill off, you're instantly going to start healing. For our subclass, we're going to be running Prismatic Titan. Now, you might be thinking an insurmountable skull fort is going to be mainly arc focused, but luckily with Prismatic, we have access to the specific abilities within arc that will make this really shine. First up, your super is going to be Blade Fury. We're mainly using Blade Fury because of a fragment we're going to be using down below, but at the same time, it's a really great way to get yourself out of trouble, instantly having access to Woven Mail, really fast melee speeds, and being able to suspend targets. Ability-wise, I'm using Thruster mainly just to constantly keep myself moving, be able to close that gap so that I'm able to get off those really great arc punches, but obviously a barricade would never hurt. Your melee, you absolutely must use Thunderclap. What's great about this is the fact that it gives out a devastating blast that you can just like click your melee as is and do a lot of damage right then and there against especially smaller red bar enemies, but as you hold it down, it's going to continue to deal more damage and increase in power, so that whenever you release that huge thunderclap, yellow bar enemies will be shaking in their boots. Grenade wise, I like to use the Shackle Grenade, mainly because it's able to take targets out of the fight, be able to essentially let me tee them up for a thunderclap, and also the fact that it's able to stop unstoppable champions is always a huge plus. Aspect wise, Knockout is going to be a huge one for us. This one comes from that arc tree. Again, it's going to feed right into that insurmountable skull fort. Critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attack with arc energy, increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks makes you amplified and restores a portion of your health. Defeating more powerful combatants increases the amount of health you are restored. Again, it's going to give us that amplification. It's going to give us a lot of that speed, the weapon handling, and everything like that. But also, again, the fact that it's just going to feed right into that insurmountable skull fort and that thunderclap, giving us that huge health regeneration, range, and damage. It's an absolute must. Our second aspect is going to be Diamond Lance. Now, you might be saying, why aren't you using Consecration for those huge slams? Diamond Lance is also a phenomenal option. It reads, shatter or defeat targets with abilities or stasis weapons to create a stasis lance. You can either throw the stasis lance at a target to freeze them in place, or you can slam to the ground to freeze targets in a small area. What I really like about this is a couple different things. First off, if you use that slam, it's obviously going to do that AoE kind of blast around you, so that whenever you're in a group of enemies, they're all going to freeze, and then you're able to even get off just like a simple punch, and all of them are going to shatter around you. Also, the fact it's going to give you frost armor. It's going to be 2 stacks of frost armor for every single time you slam it down, meaning you're getting that good damage reduction. Also, I really like how it feeds into one of our fragments, and also just the fact that, again, it's going to tee up enemies to stop them in their tracks for a huge thunderclap. Going over our fragments, Faceted Protection is going to be an absolute must. Not only does it boost our melee stats, which is going to be huge here in a second, but it says while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and while transcendent, this effect is increased. This is going to be big for, again, a setup that's going to put us right in front of enemies in that huge damage, especially on Mythic difficulty. Facet of Ruin increases size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target. Is big, again, with that Diamond Lance, constantly stopping them in their place and being able to get that bigger AoE damage. Facet of Dawn, powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant, and powered melee final blows make you nearby allies radiant. This is a really nice one, just for the fact that it's going to essentially, again, give all of our weapons that extra damage. It's going to feed into our artifact and essentially make sure that if we have to use our gun, it's going to be even better. Facet of Purpose, picking up an orb power grants you either Bolt Charge, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. Obviously, we have on that Blade Fury, so we're going to be getting that Woven Mail for that easy extra 40% damage reduction. which is amazing. I definitely love this, and especially the fact that we're constantly creating orbs, we're constantly keeping up that huge damage reduction. And your big damage one here is going to be Faceted Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets affected by darkness debuffs. We have 2 different darkness debuffs within this setup. It's going to be that Shackle Grenade to suspend targets, and it's also going to be that Diamond Lance to freeze targets. Now, there's essentially 2 different exotic weapons you can use for this setup depending on how you want to play. If you want to play aggressively or if you want to play a little bit more safe. The aggressive method is going to be with Bastion. Bastion is a kinetic fusion rifle up in your primary top slot. It reads Saint's Fist. Rapidly fire 3 spreads of pure force. After a successful melee hit, this weapon gains increased damage, reduced charge time, and improved reload speed for a short duration. All that sounds great, but it's the second part of this that we're really wanting to focus on. Hitting a target with most of the pellets in a burst increases melee damage for a short duration. Now, that increased melee damage is up to 300%, meaning that Thunderclap is going to just be an absolute god clap on certain enemies. It's essentially just a exotic version of a 1-2 punch with even better effects. I really do love this just for the fact that you can pretty much just go back and forth using it as a true weapon or just a utility weapon for your Thunderclap, but regardless, Bastion is a phenomenal option. Your second weapon setup is going to be using Tractor Cannon instead. This exotic shotgun down in your heavy slot reads Repulsor Force. This weapon emits a powerful impulse that pushes targets away, suppresses their abilities, and makes them more vulnerable to all incoming damage. And it's also strong against overload champions. Big reason why I like this again is for that suppression effect. Essentially, you can just activate this in a group of enemies. They're all either going to die or just become suppressed. And those enemies that are suppressed are going to be taking 30% extra damage, meaning you can essentially, again, tee up a quick shot and have a lot more damage on them. If you use this though, I recommend a weapon with 1-2 punch. Hitting a target with nearly every pellet in a shot increases melee damage for a short duration. Now, before we talk about the mods on your armor, let's talk about your stats real fast. At the start of Edge of Fate, stats have become an absolute pinnacle part of your setup for the fact that they are going to give you extra abilities once you break that 100 level of them. The biggest one for the setup is obviously going to be melee. The first part of this reads, reduce your melee cooldown, increases the amount of melee energy from all sources. Currently my melee is at a 45-second cooldown with 190% extra melee energy. But once I break that 100 threshold, I'm going to start getting extra benefits to that once I hit 200. So the enhanced benefit I'm currently having at a 165, it says increases the damage done by your melee attack, a plus 19% PvE and plus 13% PvP. Obviously, I can get this much higher, all the way up to 200 for even better melee effects, but this is where I'm at right now for my farming of gear. Obviously, you can go into different activities, focus your ghost onto a specific archetype you're wanting to do. Obviously, mine's going to be Brawler, mainly focusing into melee. Now let's talk about those armor mods. On our helmet, we're going to be focusing obviously our melee mod for extra melee energy, special ammo finder so that I'm able to get extra special ammo for things like my Bastion, my 1-2 punch shotgun, and then also hands on so that I'm getting the extra super energy on my melee kills. On our arms, I'm going to be going a double heavy-handed so that I'm able to get more orbs of power when getting those powered melee final blows. Essentially, having one of these is going to be a 10-second cooldown, 2 of these is a 5-second cooldown between orbs, and then 3 will be a 1-second. And for right now, since my melee stat isn't as high as I really want it, I have on melee font so that whenever I collect orbit powers, I'm going to gain armor charge. And once I have those max stacks, I gain bonus melee stats while I have those armor charges. Those go for one of these, it's 30, for 2 of these, it's 50, and for 3 of these, it's going to be 60 extra bonus. So right now I'm getting 30 for having those armor charges, essentially putting my melee stat at 195. Chest piece just focus into resistance mods. I always just get a decent spread of arc, void, and solar, just so that I'm able to, resist as much as I humanly can. On my boots, I'm mainly running different cooldown mods for my other abilities outside my melee. I'm able to get my melee back pretty fast, not only from Insurmountable Skullfort, but also just hitting targets with my melee so that I'm able to get that charged melee back. Orbs of Restoration, picking up an orb power grants a small amount of energy to your ability with the least energy. Absolution reduces all build to cooldowns each time you pick up an orbit power. And then I'm running a kinetic scavenger whenever I'm using my Bastion so that I'm able to get extra reserves when I'm picking up ammo used by that weapon. Obviously swap this up depending on exactly what weapon you're going to focus into. So if you're using Tractor Cannon, obviously go into a Void Scavenger. And then on our Titan mark, I'm running an outreach so that whenever I use my class ability, that thruster around targets, I'm going to get a little bit of melee energy back if I really need it. And then 2 time dilations, essentially just to make sure those armor charges are staying active longer so that I'm holding on to that extra 30 stat boost to my melee a little bit longer. Now, looking at our artifact, a couple things that we need to focus on. First up is going to be Elemental Coalescence. Defeating a target has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super. So obviously we're using Blade Fury. That's going to create a tangle, which is nice because it feeds really well into refreshing threads. Picking an elemental pickup matching your subclass element or tangle while you have a strand super grants energy to your least charged ability, essentially adding into that energy flow. Radiant Shrapnel I really like for the fact that dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant or defeating a scorched combatant with a weapon causes the target to release a solar projectile that deals damage and scorches on impact. Really great for as we're constantly doing that power of melee. You pull out a gun, get a real quick precision hit or something like that. It's going to create that little extra effect that's just going to give you a little bit more damage on your target. Shield Crush is also going to be a huge one. While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. Obviously, we're getting Woven Mail from our Orbs of Power and Frost Armor from that Diamond Lance, so constantly keeping up that melee. And then while you are Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. We're constantly keeping up Amplified from our punches, and then also Radiant activating. I always like to talk about how this is going to affect endgame champions as well. Obviously, for barriers, we're going to be constantly able to activate that Radiant effect. So just pull out a weapon that doesn't have a current champion mod on it, and then you're able to get off that barrier effect. Unstoppable champions, we're able to stop them with our Shackle Grenade, which is great from that suspension effect. And then finally, Overload, we're able to suppress them if we are using our Tractor Cannon, or we can also just jolt them with a Thunderclap as well, or slower shatter them with our Diamond Lance. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and make sure you check out the description down below for some more Destiny 2 news. And for all your Destiny news, keep it here on IGN.